Hey everybody, Pastor George back to give current events eternal perspective. When I worked at a retail furniture store, my manager posted a story in the back room to remind us to take responsibility for our work. It's a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. And it ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Does this sound familiar to you? Can you relate? Because there's some really practical truth to this. Jesus calls us to love our neighbor. Now, we know that this is a command for all of us, and we're sure somebody will do it. Maybe we wish it was us, but oftentimes we can find lots of reasons why we can't. Our excuses aren't necessarily malicious as much as we don't realize the simple truth that God would not give us a command without also making a way for it to happen. So today, we're talking about the real intangible ways that we can love our neighbor. And we need to pray that God will open our eyes to see the opportunities that He gives us. So let's look at 1 John chapter 3. Now we know what real love is because Jesus gave up His life for us. So we also ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. If somebody has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. Now, one thing we cannot ignore in our challenge to love our neighbors is that love is a verb. It demands action. Another translation puts verse 18 this way: little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. James reminds us to be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. And talk is cheap unless you back it up. And when we love in deed and truth, we are proving with our bodies what we say with our lips. The deeds are the truth. Your actions will be the proof of your beliefs. One U.S. politician who is arguably hostile towards people of faith made a stirring challenge that Christians should take seriously. He said, "Before you speak to me about your religion, first show it to me in how you treat other people. Before you tell me how much you love your God, show me in how much you love all His children. Before you preach to me of your passion for your faith, teach me about it through your compassion for your neighbors. In the end, I'm not as interested in what you have to tell or sell as in how you choose to live and give." And so while this comes from a hostile witness, I think it does capture the essence of how and why we love our neighbors, that it's vital we show love even more than we tell. So what this means is we need to find practical and tangible ways to love our neighbors. So how do we do that? Well, Ephesians 5 says, imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are His dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered Himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. As we look at the ministry of Jesus, we can get some ideas of this practical love, feeding, caring, and encouraging through the Word of God. Now, feeding is as simple as a cup of coffee, or as complex as a meal for a shut-in or a new mom. Caring can be as simple as writing a kind note, or as complex as taking care of a parent or a friend who's sick. Encouraging through the Word is as simple as telling someone you'll pray for them, or as complex as leading a Bible study among your friends. And while these ideas are in fact simple and practical, loving people is supposed to be tangible and real. There's nothing abstract about love. But make no mistake, love will always cost us something. 1 John shows us that by this we know love, that Jesus laid down His life for us, and so we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers and sisters. Which is what Jesus meant when He said that this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. And greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. And loving someone will always have a cost, whether it's our time, our resources, or something else. Love actually requires you to give of yourself. It has no room for selfishness. And when you choose to love, you choose to set aside your own self-interest for the needs and interests of other people. Jesus paid the ultimate price of love with His life. and did so because he had great affection for his disciples. He considered them friends, and he poured into them without reservation. Here's a thought. How generous would you be if you were given an expense account to use to bless others? I mean, sure, you'd have to steward it, but it was designed to be used to make a difference. Some of you may even have expense accounts at work, and I bet you find it easier to justify spending money when it's not yours. See, the trick to counting the cost comes when we realize that nothing we have is truly ours. When we grasp that our possessions and our time and our life truly belong to God, we can be more generous with it. And God's provision is our expense account, which just shows us that loving others is already within our grasp. Verse 17 says, "But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him?" When God has provided for us, it's also a way for Him to provide for others. And the book of James famously says, "What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace and be warm and filled,' without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead." And this one is tough because it forces me to look in my closet and in my bank account and in my heart to see where my treasure really lies. And Acts describes the believers as sharing everything in common to make sure that no one had need. And what that shows me is an example where my resources that I have in abundance can be used to meet the needs of those lacking. And it shows me that I don't have to go very far to produce blessings for others. In 1 Timothy 6:8, Paul declares, "But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content." Which makes the next question, is my neighbor content? So I can get a shovel and help my neighbor dig a hole. I can go in my kitchen and cook a meal for someone who is hungry. I can sit at my desk and write a note of encouragement to someone who is hurting. I can clean out my closet and give away clothes I don't wear, or and give it to someone who really needs them. I can use what I have and what has been made available to me to love and to serve. And we may not have much, but what we do have has been granted to us so that it can be used to show love to somebody. Now, I love that I have a garage full of tools, and I love knowing that I can help someone lay a floor or fix something in their bathroom. I love knowing that what I have been blessed with can be a blessing to other people, and I can love others as I have been loved. So what do we do now? Well, first we need to look within ourselves and ask what we're willing to pay to demonstrate love, not forgetting what has already been paid to show us love. And we need to look and see what is already within our grasp that we can use to demonstrate love. And then we need to do it. And I think that when we consider that God not only commands us to love our neighbors, but has put it within our reach to do so, we have taken a great step towards being the light Jesus wants us to be in the world. And I think that you'll find that even the smallest acts will carry eternal weight. I want to challenge you this week to take some action, and I want you to make it personal. Find someone this week that you can tangibly show love to. And based on what we find when we look inside ourselves and look at our resources, whether it's our time or our money or our possessions, find some way to touch a life. Pray that God will give you the eyes then to see needs and a soft heart to respond to them. And I believe that if you pray and you ask God to reveal a way that you can show love, He will open up a door. Because love is a verb. And we are the somebody who will do what anybody can do and everybody should do. Now, may the Lord make your love for one another and for all people grow and overflow, just as our love for you overflows. God bless, and we will see you soon.